Guys in Ties YouTube channel. All right. So, welcome, folks, to Credit Banking and the Search for the Lost American Dream. Now, before we get started, let me tell you, folks, we're going to be talking about a lot of different financial strategies and different types of situations, but we are not going to be practicing any licensing, specific financial advice, and we're not brokers licensing in any way, shape, or form that we will be practicing during this event. We always recommend that you engage the services of professionals when making decisions, especially when they have legal and financial implications. And so, with that being said, let's move forward because I totally butchered that. Wise Guys in Ties, you can reach out to us 888-524-9273 or bizcredit@wiseguysinties.com is our email. And of course, go over to wiseguysinties.com where you can find all about business credit and also schedule a credit banking consultation, business credit consultation, or find out more about real estate investing. Pictured on the screen is myself there and Joseph Smith. We are the co-founders of Wise Guys in Ties. So you may be asking yourself, if this is your first time here, what exactly is credit banking? So credit banking utilizes your budget surplus and revolving lines of credit to transfer the highly expensive amortized loan interest into simpler, less expensive repayment plans. This plan radically decreases the total number of loan payments, which in turn reduces the total amount of interest paid, resulting in aggressively paying down of your principal loan balance in about 1/3 the time. And so there are 3 things that you're going to need to implement this strategy. What do you need to get started? Well, you're going to need debt. Many of us don't have any trouble getting that. You're going to need some positive cash flow. That's a little bit trickier. And then a line of credit. Now, like I said, if this is your first time finding us, in the link of this video, you're going to be able to see a link to a video training done by Joseph Smith himself, which really goes over the entire credit banking strategy. And tonight, what we're doing in each and every week when we're on these masterminds is we continue to build on top of that foundational understanding. So you're going to get an extreme amount of value out of tonight, but if you feel a little bit like lost, don't worry. This is a process, and keep coming back each and every week to keep learning more. And as well, reach out to us so we can help you strategize on a plan to move forward so you can get out of debt. All right, folks. So what is that lost American dream? Quite frankly, it's financial freedom. Ooh. And how did we actually lose that financial freedom, and what keeps us from financial freedom? It's out of control debt. So if you've seen the movie Indiana Jones or any of the movies in the Paramount series, you got to understand Indiana Jones had the ability to and the knowledge, but he didn't see certain things coming at him. And so this is what happens in our life. We're following a certain path, we're thinking we're doing everything the right way, and then we went to school, we got good grades, we got a career, bought the house, got the kids, got the dog, got the cars, and then next thing we know, we're running out of money before we run out a month, and we're simply just doing what we were told to do. And so how does this all come into play? And I know Carl says his problem on that is obtaining a sufficient line of credit, and that's another thing that we'll be talking about. How do we manage our personal credit? Because when our debt's out of control, it crashes our personal credit. So Carl, stick with us because we are going to show you how to implement that in a great way to start building your personal credit as well. Because this all works together, folks, because you might be asking yourself, well, where is that lost American dream? It was a roadmap. We didn't learn these things in school. We didn't learn these tools in the public education. And so what we're doing each and every week is helping you build that map, bringing these pieces back together. Budget, lines versus loan, credit banking, implementing of the strategy, the movement of money. And this is important to understand, that as you get all of these little pieces, this isn't something that you'll understand in just one time. As you get educated on this strategy, as you continue to see other people's examples and case studies, you're going to start to grasp it. And at the same time, we, as the Wise Guys in Ties and Richie along with us, we can help you develop and implement this strategy. And so I've been talking about him. Here he is, Richie Galars Pancoast. He is a business owner, real estate investor, entrepreneur from the Hawaiian Islands. And actually, he's been perfecting this strategy, this credit banking strategy, over the last 8 or 9 years, really. He's helped hundreds of folks implement this strategy, and he continues each and every week dedicating his time and his efforts into helping people get educated on this strategy, because it's literally changing lives everywhere. And that's also why we do it too, because you may be asking yourself, well, why didn't why do you guys keep doing this stuff each and every week? Quite frankly, it's our charity. It's changing lives, to be quite blunt. And so, as we talked about the map, I think I went a little bit too far. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and bring out Mr. Richie Galars Pancoast. Come on out, Richie.
Hey, what's up? Let's see here.
Oh, you know what? I need to actually authorize you to be able to share your screen and start your. There you go. You should be able. You should be good. Can
Okay,
you?
awesome. There we go.
There.
Hey, what is
Hey,
up?
good
All
to see
right.
you.
Thank you. You too, Ray. It's been such a great month so far. Just being able to be here on Tuesday afternoons with you guys, because it's still 90 degrees outside right now, nice and sunny. How's the weather over there now in Arizona?
Still hot. Still hot. Yeah, and it's just not as hot, but is hot.
It's
So
hot.
yeah,
Gotcha.
it's hot. I had to cut off all my hair. It looks like. Did you get a haircut?
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, it looks good. I actually let my child cut mine, and they just took it all off.
Nice. I wish I could do that. No, I mean they just opened up the salons because we've been in lockdown for the last it's about like 2 or 3 weeks now, and they just basically shut down all the small businesses around the islands. The only things that are open were grocery stores, Walmart, and Target for some reason, and the food food places, right? So anything else that we needed had to be Amazon ordered or whatever. But now they're finally opening up the shops. We have all this social distancing stuff going on, and salons are back open. With you a lot of the I guess precautions in place. So I had to wear my mask. Almost cut my mask strings while she was cutting my hair, but here we are. Finally got myself a nice haircut, I guess you could say. So
There you
hope it's
go.
working out. All right. So anyway, today I wanted to actually talk about budget. Now, Ray, tell me, when you first started looking at credit banking, uh, do you remember the first thoughts that were in your mind when you saw this idea and you started running those numbers in your head, your own money and your own numbers and your own budget and everything like that? What was the first thing that popped up in your head?
I have no idea what my expenses are. That was actually
Exactly,
that was the first thought. I was
dude.
like, if that was my report card, if my
Mhm.
budget was my report card, I definitely failed.
Yeah, that's exactly what most people, and I'm saying most, I'd say about 99.99% of people that I've worked with in this process, they did not know their own numbers. They did not know their own expenses. What they did know was how much they got paid, as far as the biweekly paychecks that they got, and how much they got paid per hour, and how much is in their bank account right now, their checking account right now, which is usually, well, zero, right? And it just blows my mind because I wasn't the only one when I started thinking about when I started looking at this whole credit banking strategy, and it was introduced to me, that was the first thing that popped in my head as well. That popped in my head as well because that part where it talked about what you have left over is going to be paying things down, right? That cash flow, that leftover after all expenses are paid, the surplus of your budget. Where the heck is that? I had no clue. Considering the fact that me and my wife worked really great jobs, well, I worked two jobs at the time, and my wife, she's a registered nurse at one of the biggest hospitals here in Hawaii, and so she got paid pretty well. But one other reality that we had to face was the fact that Hawaii's cost of living is redonkulous, you know. And so when I was told to go ahead and put everything on a sheet, just like put down all my expenses, all my incomes, gather all your bills and everything like that, I realized why I didn't know. And the reason why is budgeting sucks. Okay, it sucks. It's like such a such a burden. It's such a chore, right? Something that I do not value one bit, back then anyway, that I didn't value one bit because it was just one of those things that just, man, why can't I just keep my head down, work, and then make my dreams come true? Because that's what I was told was supposed to happen. Nobody told me that I had to, be able to track these things, to treat my personal finances kind of like a business, to be honest with you. Didn't really think that way until, well, I started going into this strategy and realizing that my monthly expenses and my monthly incomes is what's going to dictate my future. My, that it's just the That's just the fact. And one of the first things that popped up to my mind was like, okay, first thing that came to my mind when I started learning about this and started hearing about how much the surplus needs to be to pay down my debt. The first thing that came to my mind is like, oh man, do I need to get a third job? Does Jenny need to get another job? Because that's what's ingrained in our head. How to make money, got to get a job. And if I'm not making enough money, I got to get another job. And there was no entrepreneurial instinct in me at all at the time. Okay, maybe you guys are in the same boat right now. Maybe you guys were thinking about, oh, picking up a side hustle, or finding a way to make more income without having to work as hard, right? And that's when I started learning about real estate investing more than anything, and that's where things started churning. I was working full time jobs and I got into real estate investing on top of that. That to me is the ultimate side hustle. Never mind the potions, pills, shakes, and all that stuff. To me, the ultimate side hustle is being able to, learn how to do real estate investing. And well, the education program that I invested in gave me the opportunity to market their education, kind of like an Instagram influencer. It's like, I'm doing it. Why can't you? And so they pay me for that as well. So it's really neat to find these really great ways of making income without without killing myself over time, without having to pick up three jobs here in Hawaii, um, to make this credit banking and the American dream alive again. So budgeting was just one of those things that I really had to coach myself into. Like, in other words, just really looking in the mirror and saying, hey, this needs to happen, Richie. If it's not going to happen, then the next step is not going to happen. If that next step is going to happen, then where's your dream going to be?
Mm.
So it really started really nagging at me when it came down to that, figuring out that expense thing. So it, I mean, for you, Ray, I mean, you're a serial entrepreneur. I mean, was one of those things in your head, like, hey, I don't know my expenses, but how am I going to make more money? What was the first thing that came to mind to figure that out?
So at the time, actually, because when I had found out about this, it really was what you were talking about, that basically that, and it's almost like an affiliate type situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's helping a business get more clients, which we talk about. We talk about that a lot, because that's what it all comes down to. Is, unfortunately, some of us have this thought about being a salesperson. I did too. I never thought I was a salesperson, but um, businesses need revenue if you can help them bring in some business. And so that was my thought, is how am I going to, like you said, I'm thinking here, how am I going to support myself? Because at the time I had gotten injured and I was waiting on a knee surgery and I couldn't work. So I wanted to get educated on this, but at the time I was also in a situation where I didn't have income coming in. And then that's when they said, hey, you can, that group of real estate investors, they were like, why don't you help us do some of this marketing? And
Mm-hmm.
then because I did that, I was able to actually surround myself with like-minded individuals. And that's really how I was able to support myself through that period of time.
Right. I mean, I didn't even have that, to be honest with you. I mean, Hawaii was just so brand new to the whole concept of that education service and being able to market. I didn't have a community. You guys did. And it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, so if I'm going to start doing this, I got to start creating my own community, and I got to start, you know, creating a community of real estate investors on this island. And that's what we ended up doing. So it's just really neat how one little thought of, hey, this dream can come true, but do some work here, and this work is going to be really fun for you, by the way, because it's not the typical job. It's not the typical, I got to spend 40 hours away from my family plus, by the way, so 40 plus hours away from my family, and 1 hour of traffic each way each day. That's another, uh, you know 14 more hours out of my life to, to try and put food on the table. And I felt like I didn't need to do all of that anymore. It just felt so good to be able to, bring that value to our community, bring that value to the company, and bring value to myself, because I got into real estate investing. I started making money in real estate investing, and that's where everything turned for me, right? But the budget was always one of those key things that I needed to focus on. Now, for the typical W-2 employees, budgeting is quite easy. I'm just being real. Like, once you list the things down and you track it weekly or monthly, whatever makes a person feel comfortable when they're going through their numbers, and going through their bills and everything like that. If they set up a system using the credit banking strategies, and they set up that system, it becomes easier and easier. And then when you get into a business, let's say you ditch the W-2 world like I did, and that was a very strange transition for me, because it was one of those things where I got to hold myself accountable instead of answering to a boss. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, my time is not necessarily making my money. It's my value, it's my education, it's my ability to connect things that's going to make my money, right? It's a different way of thinking. And so then my budget started doing this action. It just started going up and down, up and down. It's just a really weird thing, because one month I would be having, as far as real estate and sales, when it comes down to it, I would have a great month, $20,000, $40,000 month, and then all of a sudden it drops down to zero for the next month, and then the next month would be 5 to 6, maybe $9,000, and then it would drop down to three, and then it would go up to 20 again, and it would drop down to zero, and so on and so forth. There's these trends as a business owner that you just got to kind of be able to float. And as someone who understands the credit banking strategy as a business owner, holy moly, that has saved my business life so many times, being able to float my expenses. The W-2 worker, on the other hand, could almost always count on that money coming in, unless something detrimental happens to the job or to yourself, right? But if it's a steady position, it's a steady job, or something that you'll be able to move up in and whatnot, much easier to deal with, much easier to just know that my expenses are here, my income is here, and I do not want to, mess with the in between over here, unless it's an emergency kind of a thing. So, uh, I'm sorry to say that yes, to me, budgeting, sucked back then, right? I mean, it's just one of those feelings that I had. Maybe you guys are feeling the same exact way today, because you're still getting into this mode of credit banking and entrepreneurship, maybe, or just credit banking and W-2 and making your dreams come true that way. Fine and dandy. But once you get over that hump of realizing that budgeting is not so bad, just buy into it. Realize that this is one of the bigger humps that you're going to have to go through to make your dreams come true. That lost American dream is within your grasp if you just make that first step, right? So, is it okay if I give you an example,
Yeah,
Trey?
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
So, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and let me make sure that my calculator here is all prepped and ready to go.
While you're doing that, I'll just share with you, because I did not like budgeting. I still don't like budgeting. And what I found was, though, because, bank accounts and everything are so tech savvy now, where it'll let you know all the transactions, everything like that. I was able what I honestly did is I got a bookkeeper, and it came out to about like once you're on track and everything and just having them update it, I mean, it was less than $50 a month. So I mean, less than I'm going to pay for like internet service or something like that, for them to keep everything in line for me. And then that way, when it comes taxes, and I still do that with the businesses too, I mean, it just gets a little bit more. But that was really helpful. So if you aren't good at it, or you can't do it, or you're too busy, then that's when you got to outsource. And there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
really good services out there. There's even services out there that can integrate your current bank account into like, some type of spreadsheet or something like that. But if you get a bookkeeper, it's really funny if your wife spends a lot on coffee, because then our bookkeeper is like, he has this really deep voice. He's like, all right, Ray, your wife spent $86 in coffee in the last 2 weeks. What's going on? I'm like, she
Nice.
doesn't get salary. That's her payment, I guess. But anyway, sorry, that's a little side
No,
note.
that's awesome. No, I totally agree with you. I mean, I remember the first budgeting tool that I actually used was Mint.com. Honestly, that's like that free. Back then it wasn't owned by Intuit, who owns QuickBooks. It was owned by it was their own company, and back then it was uh, not really care. We didn't really care about like the cyber attacks and IT defenses when it comes to being able to share all that data online, because everything was supposed to be nice and secure. All the pipelines that we had, all our bank accounts, that we filed into Mint.com would show up on there, and I would get an email weekly, basically telling me how my budget's going. And if we ended up spending money on like a new computer or something like that, it would flag us and let us know, hey, you spent so and so on at Best Buy for a whatever, check, get yourself back in check, basically. So it's really neat to have those automated systems. I can't recommend anyone specifically. I just started with Mint.com, but then I ended up going away from them because I had a bunch of bank accounts that just weren't compatible with them because we're in Hawaii, and it's one of those things. I haven't gone back. I haven't checked to see if they're compatible again. But at this point, I'm just happy to use a spreadsheet, and so I'm going to show you that spreadsheet right now. And it's not the numbers that I have on there are just examples. They're not real, but it gives me that ability to share with you what my typical day was when I was talking to a someone who needed help. Okay, and so here's just again, here's just an example. And at this point, we're looking at a couple who seemed to be breaking even every single month. And what they would do is they would give me the information here. And as you can see, they have like a credit score of 680. But when I look at their budget and I look at their worksheet, I start to understand their history immediately. Okay, so let's go down the line here. What I see is, a gross income of, $5,000 total. So that's gross income that's before taxes and before any retirement contributions or anything like that. Take home pay was 4,200, and so in these this couple only rented; they weren't owning a house, and they had one credit card, low balance, low limit, but it was maxed out. Okay, as you can see, and it's a high interest. And what we see also is an auto loan at 15.99%. $7,000 balance. There's 3 years left. It was a 5-year loan, and their payment is 246 a month. Now, when I look at this, I already know that number one, they're keeping up with their payments. They haven't missed any bills because what it looks like was they started with lower credit. Being able to get just a $700 credit card balance at credit card limit at 29.99 and an auto loan 2 years ago at 15.99 tells me that their credit was lower before, because at 680 right now, those things would be lower right now. Limits would be higher on the credit card if they had 680 when they first applied to these. So something that just comes up, it kind of paints that history. And so I'm able to connect to the client and tell them, hey, looks like you're doing a great job because your credit score is being 680. And from what I gather, was your credit score lower before? And they would say, oh yeah, that's we've been working really hard to get it back up. And it just gives me that opportunity to commend them on such a great uh, you know a great job on their process of trying to fix their situation, right? And with that being said, though, they're still feeling stuck. They're still feeling like there's nothing left over after all expenses are paid. It just feels like there's that they just keep revolving in this circle, this the hamster syndrome right now. Nothing is moving. They're moving, but they're not going anywhere. And so what I do is I go down to their living expenses. So as you can see, they have a $1,700 a month rent, and their groceries. They have a few kids, so it's $600 a month on that. Electricity's 50, sewer and water is 50, cable internet's 150, gas is $60 because they don't have to go very far for work. Car insurance is 120, miscellaneous is 500, entertainment's 80, and their tithes and offerings is 10% of their total income, or somewhere around there. It's just $450, and so to me, my my questions would be this at that point: what do you want to do? What are you trying to do here? What's the ultimate goal? What is the American dream that you're trying to achieve here? And at this point, I'll be honest with you, majority of the people who are going through this particular situation of breaking even every single month, it's like, I just want to feel some air. I just want to have some some room to breathe, really, at this point. I'm not even looking that far into the future because the budget and everything just feels so tight. I just need to breathe a little bit. Okay. And so once we paint that picture of, what they want to do, well, they just want to get some relief here. They just want to breathe. And then maybe they'll start thinking about the future. Well, let's take a look at what they could do to breathe, right? And so one of the first things that come up to mind, Ray, do you see anything on here that kind of that kind of screams, what is that for?
Oh, from me?
Yeah,
Something that screams, what is that for?
when you
I
when you look at
mean,
the living expenses, yeah,
I mean, so we're looking at, the miscellaneous at 500.
yeah,
If their groceries and everything else is kind of accounted for, um, yeah, what's in that 500?
exactly. And this is where a lot of people don't know. It's like they're left with nothing after all expenses are paid, and they're like, when they list the things down on here, right? When they list everything on this page, they're like, why do I have more money? Why does it say that I have more money? well, it's got to be going somewhere. So let's just go ahead and throw it in miscellaneous.
Mm.
And that's what they do, when they fill this form out. And so then I asked them, I drilled them, hey, like, what's guys, I'm having, oh yeah, sorry. Um, it's like, what constitutes breaking even, and what is those factors that make you break even? And sometimes people just reel it in and say, you know what, they take a deep breath and and they say, there are some things that we do that we really don't need to be doing for paying for. Okay. And I'm not going to go as far as to saying, like, people gambling or anything like that, but a lot of people have guilty pleasures, and those guilty pleasures cost money, and that money can actually help them focus to that reprieve, right? And when I see something like $500 in miscellaneous, that right there. I look at this total income minus fixed and living expenses and net income cash flow, $94. That makes a lot of sense. uh, you know, that's break even right there. Plus or minus
Hmm.
$100, right? That to me is break even. Another thing I'm also looking at is their debt to income ratio. So if we're looking at, their bank expenses. So their bank expenses being, one is the car payment and the other is the credit card payment, right? Those are debt to income ratio expenses right there, along with the rent. Okay. And what the bank is going to look at and say is, well, your debt to income ratio is at 39% right now. Our limit is 45, and you're at that 1971, but your max bank expenses should be up to only 2250 with a 45% debt to income ratio. Okay, so just keep that in mind as we go through this. So now we're looking at at this budget, and we're trying to think, okay, what if we did this? 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 That's generally what goes through my mind when I see this kind of thing. And I'm never going to be the person, ever going to be the person that tells somebody, hey, you got to shrink yourself. You got to stop, uh, you know, certain things. I'm going to suggest maybe they put it off for a little bit, but think about what the future holds. Okay. I'm never going to tell somebody to stop their tithes and offerings, but I'm going to show them what it would look like if they went ahead and got rid of the stuff that they needed to get rid of that's in front of their face, and then go back to it later, right? Because that's cash flow. That's money that's that could help them give more later, be honest with you. So I'm always about the oxygen mask mentality. If no, if you guys don't know what that means, it's basically if you're on an airplane and you're with your child, and the oxygen mask drop down, what does the airline tell you to do? Well, they tell you to put the mask on you first before you help anybody else. And that's something that's really helped me a lot, because I was always a giver. I was always somebody who donated a lot, who gave a lot of money to places, and and gave a lot of money to friends who needed it and everything like that. It's just that what's happening in my life, what's happening in my dreams, what's happening with my kids and their future and everything like that. And so being able to put that oxygen mask on myself first and foremost gave me that ability to get to a better position. So therefore now I could actually give more, believe it or not. It's mind blowing, but that's what's happening. Okay. So I'm just, the way I do these budgets, right? It's not about do this, do that, do this. It's about let me see what happens if we did. I'm always about running numbers first before making decisions. And so that's what most people need to, just really get to that point to understand that numbers don't lie, number one. And number two, those decisions based on numbers generally are binary. It's yes or no. It's a right or wrong. It's positive or negative. Okay, that's as simple as it can get. Honestly, there's no emotion to it, so it's just that's a beautiful thing. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna say, okay, couple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see how we could actually pay this car loan off as fast as possible. Now that your credit score is at 680, great job on that. And I'm not going to tell you go out and get another job. I'm just going to see what we could do to transform this budget into something that could actually help you, pay down faster. Okay. So we have a $700 balance on here in this credit card. We have an auto loan of $7,000, and these interest rates are just ridiculous. Okay. And so my goal is to say, you know what? Let's get rid of these first before you move on to the next thing. Regardless on how long it takes, be able to transform that debt into something more manageable. Maybe increasing cash flow, maybe not. Not too sure yet until I run the numbers. And just fair warning, I did not run the numbers on this yet. I just posted, I just made this up seriously before this meeting, but I did not run the numbers yet. Okay. So I'm going to go to this calculator over here and, I'm going to I plugged in the numbers over here and I'm going to say, you know what? Let's say they were able to qualify for a different type of bank product out there that could actually absorb the $7,700. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, what's going to happen is, let's just call this a personal line of credit. It's just another bank product that's out there, like an auto loan, like a personal loan, and we're just basically going to consolidate those two debts into this. And let's say they actually, let's see what they actually qualify for. I'm going to go ahead and open up a different thing here. Let's say I'm going to try for 10,000 to see what happens. Okay, so we're going to do 10,000. Boom. And let's say their interest rate is 12%. And there's really no term on this. So I'm just going to say, well, you know what? I can't really do it that way either. It's not a loan. What am I doing, Ray? Let's do it a different way. 10,000 times 3%. That's usually what the bank asks for. Line of credit. 10,000 times 0.03, 3%. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this 246 with 300. Okay. What does their debt to income ratio say? 41%. So technically, just according to this, just me calculating that out, it looks like they should be able to get a $10,000 personal line of credit from a bank, as long as they're able to wipe these lines and this line and this loan out with it. All right. So this needs to go away and this needs to go away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. I'm going to open up this personal line of credit with whomever lender. It's going to be a $10,000 limit. And we're going to have a $7,700 balance on it. It's going to be 12%. And now I'm going to do a new calculation on, what the interest on this is. $78.48 per month. So that would wipe this loan out, and that would bring this balance down to zero. They may even tell them to close this credit card, or maybe not. I don't think so, because it's only 700. I don't think it's going to affect them. Okay. All right. So now let's take a look at their cash flow. As simple as that, we've already opened up about $240 worth of cash flow because, well, we just did a simple interest line of credit, payment on it. Okay. But now I'm going to guarantee you that this $261 is not going to really move this line of credit using the credit banking strategy very fast. So that's why I'm going to start digging into them. It's like, okay, let's say, what if we actually, freed this one up, or this one up, or both of them up, or just leave it alone. Okay, so let's run those numbers. So number one, I'm going to, use this credit, this line of credit here. This is what it looks like. And let's say this is for October 120. Okay. Now, their monthly income is, what is that? 4,200. Sorry, give me just a second. There we go. So their monthly income is 4,200, and their fixed expenses is 1803.48. Actually, just put it 1803. We're going to round it. And their living expenses is 2135. So as you can see, cash flow is basically the same, 262, 262 rounded up, right? So if this was the only thing that they did, okay, how long was it going to take to pay off the car again? Was it a 3-year
Like 3 years. Yeah.
3 more years, right? So in this case, if they were to just use this strategy, it would have taken, well, just 1 year, 1 month off of the whole entire thing. Okay. Now, again, not that big of a difference, because it's just standard. Okay. So that's why I show this first, just to give them that idea of like, look, if you did go ahead and dump in your cash flow, which is that 262, and you needed it, that 262, you'll be able to actually take it back out just in case you did need it. Not like that loan, you pay for it, it's gone. But at least with this method, you have access to that money that you overpay on the loan, where you're, using the line of credit. You dump all that money in and only take out what you need for your expenses. What's left over is 262 more towards principal, just like you did when you had the car loan. But you now have access to the money. The money that you pay into it. If you waited 6 months, then you'd actually have, 1,000 available for you to take out just in case you needed it. But we're not doing that. Okay, we're just going to leave the money in and just keep paying it down. And so in about almost 3 years, it would pay off, and the interest on it would be 1462. Okay, the interest on the car loan total, it's not going to be that big of a difference, to be honest with you. I think it was going to be 7,000. And it was 36 months. 12. This one was the 15.99 interest. Payment was 246.06. Total interest on that would be 1858. Okay, so compared to using that line of credit, it's not that big of a difference. It's about $400 savings. Not that bad. But again, the access is one of the most important pieces. Now let's go and see what would happen if we went ahead and used or stopped whatever that miscellaneous was. Let's say, whatever that miscellaneous was, whatever they think it is, keep it in your bank account, not whatever you're spending it on. Okay. Let's see what happens if we actually add 500 to this. So I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm just going to add, minus 500 from the living expenses, basically. Okay. Actually, let me see if I could open up my view. Where's my view? There it is. And I need to see my formula bar. Okay, there you go. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to add 500. All right. So now, how long will it take off to pay this car?
Wow, less than a year. Yeah.
Yeah. And the credit card, so $7,700 total, and the interest on it would be 458. Okay. I mean, that's less than what that one, expense was for each month, right? The beautiful thing about being able to just modify or change the people's mindset and saying, hey, would you rather, is a game to me. If you ask yourself this question all the time when you make these options for yourself, would you rather pay this car off in 35 months, or, well, let's go back to 3 years, 36 months with a loan, 35 months with a line of credit, or 11 months with a line of credit, and not having to deal with that miscellaneous stuff? Then by all means, pick and choose which one you want. And then when people see this, they're like, holy, you're solving my problem because it's giving me that breath, that it's giving me room to breathe. right? That was the goal all along. We're not talking about buying a house and making millions of dollars later on. They just needed to find a way to alleviate some stress, to alleviate some of this tightness. And just one little move like this in a budget, there may be a sacrifice in it. I don't know what that $500 is for. Honestly, I really don't. Um, and there's a lot of people out there that I know that I've actually helped personally where they just hid a bunch of not hid expenses. They hid incomes because they didn't want to report it to taxes, so therefore they didn't want to report it to me. They thought that I was an authority figure that would report this stuff to taxes. But there's a lot of people out there who have these side hustles. There's a Let me give you an example. There's this tattoo artist, or he does tattoos on the side, right? But he works at a car dealership, and he's making money as a car dealer, as a service technician. But he does tattoos on the side, and he does a really good job. And I'm like wondering, why aren't you opening up your own business? It's like,
Mm.
because it's not stable. It's so I got to focus on my W-2, but I do this on the side. It's like, okay, on average, just by going by last year, how much do you make per month? Inking people up. You wouldn't believe the number. He didn't show it on this form, right? But that number was something like $5,000 or $6,000 a month of
Holy
of
smokes.
money that's just not showing up. And I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and add that 5,000 to this and see what's possible. And he could have done some crazier things. But anyway, so $500, whatever that is. Anybody have another side hustle or whatever that is? Figure it out. Oh my goodness. Hey, buddy. Sorry, my son is turning on my massager and it's making a lot of noise.
So these, I mean, I guess if you're looking at hey, that's one way to increase income. Start giving tattoos and you're out of your house.
No, that's basically what it was. And because
That's impressive. $5,000. You should start a
he was
business.
exactly he was really good. Apparently, he worked at a tattoo parlor before, and he just basically, it just wasn't steady income. He said the clientele coming into the parlor just wasn't, constant, and so therefore he would get paid, good one month and then nothing the next month. So he couldn't use that as his main job. So he had to go and be a service technician, what he actually got his degree for, at like Honda or something like that. And then he just did the tattoos on the side. But the thing is, though, the more he did, and the more people, you know, got an idea of how good of work he does, more people come to him, and he was able to do both, supplement it. So, but he was
Nice.
so fearful of going back to that unsteady income that he didn't want to do that. So I just basically showed him, okay, just stick to what you're doing. But let me show you what would happen if you did this, if you did that. And I think the last time I talked to him, they were actually thinking about buying a house, which makes sense,
Nice.
right? So
Nice.
anyway, but yeah, that was just one move, right? That was just one simple budget move. Being able to say, you know what, figure out what that expense is going to, shrink that, or technically it's two moves. It was transforming the debt and turning it into a more lenient, more leverage based type of bank product, which is the line of credit. And then using that that miscellaneous expense, getting rid of it, and then pop it into it. I mean, do we even have to add the tithes and offerings? Because at this point, they'd be satisfied and they'd still be able to do their tithes and offerings. But if they did add their tithes and offerings to it, just for the time being, you know, they pay it off in 7 months. So after 7 months, go back to giving the tithes and offerings. But at least right now, they get rid of that debt. And what's really cool about that is that 680 credit score starts going up as long as they keep in good standing with everything. They keep doing everything that they need to do, and chances are they'll be able to actually open up a better line of credit, or get that next thing that they want to deal with. So just to help people breathe a fresh air, uh, something as simple as this, as simple as this kind of budget. These are the simple moves that we do in that credit budgeting type of strategy, just to help people out. Okay, beyond that though, it turns into, okay, now that I have breath of fresh air, now that I can breathe, Now my dreams are starting to come up again, right? When we talk about lost American dream, a lot of people are not even close to thinking about why did I stop dreaming? What they're just thinking about is tomorrow. How can I not feel so tight every single month? And to me, credit banking, velocity banking, or whatever you want to call it, it helps everyone. Okay. I mean, I could go into as far as somebody who, who's in the negative. How do we get that to the positive? How do we turn that into, uh, you know, other things? That's when it starts having that conversation that yes, you're going to have to make more money now, or you're going to have to make money. Period. A lot of people who have no job can't pick up credit banking, just like Ray talked about in the beginning. You can't just pick up credit banking and not play with those three tools that you need: the debt, the cash flow, and the line of credit. Can't play without them. You need all three. That cash flow portion, though, as long as you have a job and you're living within your means, cash flow is possible. It really is. It's so easy to say that, but it's harder than I think than a lot of people realize. In that realm. But if you're at this position that you've been working and you're making this type of budget right here, uh, you know, this type of income right here, this 5,000, 4,200 take home. In Hawaii, think about it this way: this is actually double. Where a lot of us are at that double rate, and but the thing is, our expenses are a lot more.
Mm.
We have to figure out. We have to get back to the basic, write down what our expenses and our incomes are, be able to track them all so we know where we are. If you're trying to aim for a target that you cannot see, then chances are you're never going to hit it. So make sure that you draw that target out. Make sure that you take those numbers, pop it into some kind of tracker, and then figure it out. Figure out how to make this work. And of course, when it comes down to assistance on the credit banking and everything like that, quite honestly, it just comes down to education after that. Once you educate yourself on how to obtain these, how to control them, how to speak to the banker, how to get the best rate, the best possible line, and then from there, once you have the tool, how to use it, get educated on how to use the tool, then all of this stuff is possible, and then some. It just turns into whatever you desire. I'll be honest with you, after you get it down. So. But yeah, that was just my point. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that when it comes down to budgeting, suck it up and track it. Honestly, just suck it up and track it. It was the most horrendous first step that we had to take. Believe it or not, honestly, it wasn't that bad, but we made it so hard for ourselves. And once we did it, we never looked back. It's just been tracking, tracking, tracking. Uh, Option, option, option. Okay, let's pick this one. Binary. Binary decisions are the best ones. When you leave the emotion out of it and focus on the numbers, it's either yes or no, positive or negative, bad or good. That's all it comes down to, and you get to pick. All right. So just wanted to share that with you guys. So
Awesome. Well, that's good stuff, dude. Because if you're like you said earlier, in order to really be effective as this is, you got to start looking at yourself like a business almost. You have to get real with the numbers, because what is a business? What is a business's goal?
mm-hmm.
It's
I
to
mean,
make money.
to make money, yeah.
I mean, a business. I mean, somebody starts a business to hopefully make money. And if you're working 40 hours a week, or you get up and drive to work, you're a business because you're the one making money. So you got to run that like a business. And that was the thing that really helped me understand in the beginning. It's like, if you're the one making money, you have to run it like a business, and get serious about it. Because just think about like a business, if they didn't track their budget or income or expenses, the business wouldn't be around for a while. And that's what leads us to financial ruins and hardships, because anything worthwhile, it's going to take effort, it's going to take work, and this isn't easy. But if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Totally, totally. I mean, I can't wait for that day, but I understand.
Well, awesome. Before I share my screen, any last thoughts on really budget? And does anybody have any questions though on budget? I know we got quite a few people in the chat there. Anybody have any questions just about budgeting and how to get a handle on that? Yeah, feel free to throw it in there and we'll answer some of those questions for you. Because folks, this is just another piece of the map. You know, we talked about budget today. Next week, we're going to talk about lines versus loans and dive into really the differences of these different banking tools, because they are banking tools. That's really what they are. They're tools for you to build the masterpiece that you're wanting to build. And then in upcoming weeks, we're going to dive deeper into implementing the credit banking strategy. And I'll tell you what, folks, once you kind of rearrange everything and get it into place, then that's when the understanding of how to implement this strategy really starts to make sense, because it's not just one thing. You have to have all of those pieces together in order to reach that destination, which is being able to get out of debt, expand, invest, actually have a vision beyond, 30 days, where you're thinking about and dreaming what you're going to be able to do in the upcoming years. Now, before we get into tonight's case study, which Richie, you did an amazing job going over that case study, we got another little case study for you. This case study tonight, it is more of a starting situation. It's a car loan and a credit card. How do we get out of that when we don't have a lot of income as well, due to actually going to school? So this is kind of a student situation where, hey, I'm already racked with debt, and how do we actually get out of this situation? Because it seems like before he's even started the career, he's already falling underwater. And we're going to kind of go over that tonight. And so this is, if you're in the situation where you're wanting to buy a house, stay tuned for this tonight, because that's what we're going to talk about. And of course, if you're not aware of it, we do have the credit banking book, The Search for the Lost American Dream, authored by none other than the credit banking master himself, Mr. Joseph Smith. And, just a little bit about Joseph here. After going to college, gained a degree, getting a job, house, car, and married with children, Joseph found himself broke and going through 2 foreclosures and a bankruptcy. He tried to do everything the right way, but somehow everything went wrong. He felt like a complete failure when he learned about the financial system and how it was rigged against him. And so Joseph, in this book, kind of outlines a lot of the ins and outs of this strategy. And right now it's only $97, and that comes with the paperback, ebook, audiobook, credit banking calculator, bud sheets, spreadsheets, and more. And this is a great starting place for a lot of folks as they journey into more education. And just depending on where you're at, reach out to us, give us a call, so we can talk about really what is the best way for you to start this journey of getting out of debt. If you're interested in the book, please go over to wiseguysandties.com/books and grab your copy today. All right. So you might be asking yourself, why are you guys talking about this stuff each and every week? Well, this goes into the 5 systems of wealth, because wealth is a mindset. And so we talk about business, we talk about taxes, we talk about credit banking, real estate, and education, because business, taxes, credit banking, real estate, these are all financial systems. And if you don't understand these systems, the systems will take advantage of you. And so you have to get educated so you can leverage these systems to your advantage. Tonight, we're going to touch base on taxes before we get into the case study. Tax planning, tax deductions, converting expenses, and paying less. Rich, this is a pretty hot topic. If you guys have seen anything on the news, there's there's a lot of controversy around, our president not having a lot in income taxes. And so a lot of folks are like, oh, how do you do this? Like, this is unheard of. It's very interesting to understand, but that's specifically just income tax. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And if you want to know more about like real estate, combining business earnings with real estate, I mean, really real estate, especially rental properties, those lose money on paper. So the deductions and the depreciation, it's absolutely insane. And that's why we always pair business ownership with real estate investing, because if that's just what the wealthy have understand. They've understand how to leverage the system to your advantage. And you can too, except for they didn't teach you this in school. So typically, as employees, our largest expense is taxes. And usually around April 24th is what, as I was an employee, used to think, well, actually, I didn't think that until I understood business, but that's really the tax freedom day. And on average, it took taxpayers 114 days to earn enough to pay the nation's tax bill for the year, which is pretty wild. And it primarily comes from employees. That's the unfortunate thing. So employees, they typically have anywhere from 15 to 20 write-offs. Did you know that being an employee is the most expensive way to pay taxes? The government takes the taxes first, then you receive your money. I mean, as business, it's difficult to write off items such as travel, cars, insurance, cell phones, computers, etc., as an employee. But your boss is doing it. As the business owner you work for, they're totally doing that. They have nearly 400, actually probably closer to 450 write-offs. And did you know that being self-employed is the least expensive way to pay taxes? When you're a business owner and self-employed, you receive your money first, then claim your expenses, then you pay your taxes. So write off items for business, like travel, cars, insurance, cell phones, computers, even your own children. You could start writing off your children. But for example, so let's say that for a brand new $50,000 heavy SUV put into use into 2020 and used for 100% for your business, 40,000 of that could typically be written off as against that income for 2020. And so what that looks like is, if you've ever seen a car dealership in December towards the end of the month, I mean, there's business owners in there buying vehicles because they're trying to offset some of that tax liability. They're like, hey, we need a new vehicle. Let's offset some of this tax liability. Hire your kids. 3 kids at $12,000. You could write off $36,000 of business revenue that year. Turn your life into a tax deduction. We always will be encouraging you to take it to the next level, but it starts with running your personal situation as a business and then expanding. Because once you can get a handle on what you're currently doing and starting a side hustle, the transition is much easier. So go over to followustofreedom.info to find out more about the community that Richie and I and Joseph and CJ, how we all came together through an amazing community and education company called Renatus. We totally encourage you guys to check it out because it's changing lives every single day. All right, folks. Now on to the case study, what you've been waiting for. And for all of our friends who are on YouTube, I want to say reach out to us. I'm going to throw our contact information up there on the screen. Also, if you want to actually partake in the Zoom call, go over to wiseguysandties.com/events. And so for all of our friends on YouTube, if you're already in the Zoom call, don't go anywhere. But for all of our friends on YouTube, you can register to be part of the Credit Banking Mastermind. Head over to our website and get scheduled for the Zoom call at wiseguysandties.com/events.